this going? Hello, can anybody see me here? Not sure if everything's going, but I thought I saw it was giving me an error message, so I just wanted to double check, make sure that the stream is indeed going. It's telling me that the video isn't smooth enough, so hopefully it's gonna look okay on your side. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream here. So, I'll be honest. I struggled a little bit on how I was going to approach tonight's stream, and mainly it's because I've been having a hard time, in the events myself. So I'll show you what I've got so far. I haven't been able to play a whole lot. I'm currently 144, so I think I'm still okay. But you can see here, I'm pretty much like right at the cusp of being demoted there, and so there's a couple of things that we had to deal with. Number one is, there was a key issue, so you kind of had to try really hard to get keys. I believe they've resolved that, and they're giving out keys every 6 hours or so, and so you are getting some keys back. But I think the biggest problem was that you couldn't get keys by participating. You had to get keys by getting 15% or more, and also the bosses hit like a truck. And so if you don't have the right deck, if you don't have the full event deck, then it's going to be really difficult to actually do well, especially with just using a single key. So I'm going to try my best to come up with some ideas that I think can work, but it's mostly going to be for guild bosses. And my recommendation here for the solo bosses is that if it's yours and you can lock it, great. You can get you can lock it and then get your own MVP that way. But if you're looking to try and get some, I'm gonna actually tag some of these. But if you want to try to get some points from solo bosses that aren't yours and you don't have an event deck, then you want to try and build something that will allow you to get a sort of like a first turn type deck. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. So just looking at the stream, we got a bunch of people saying hello here. So just wanted to say welcome and thanks for joining us. And being key starved and Slayer tried telling that to people only 2 weeks ago. Like, can you believe that we were key starved? Like, there were a bunch of us yesterday. We played for a little bit and then we basically couldn't play anymore. And so we had to really manage the keys and really sort of manage what we actually play. But I believe they've addressed that, and so at least that should be okay. So what I want to talk about today are a couple of decks that I've built using the cards I do have, and I'll be honest though, they do require some sort of the Generation 3 Ultimate forms. I don't have the Trailblazers deck, so I don't have this event's Ultimate form or Killer skill, but I think it's actually okay. And so, all right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into a solo boss here, and kind of wanted to show you what I was able to do. So here's an example of a deck that I originally started with. I do have 2 support cards. I actually pulled a couple more tiers in the Ultra pack just because I wanted to see if I could get the Ultra Rare card, because it is actually a really powerful card. But I went to tier 4, didn't get anything, but I did get a bunch of support cards, and so I was able to evolve 2 of them. And for my 25% chance card, I was able to pull the event card, and so I gave this deck a try, right? So let's see how much damage we can do with this particular deck. So this deck basically takes advantage of the fact that 3 out of the 5 cards do have 400% killer skill attack damage, and so what I'm using here is I'm using the Draconic Scoundrels to Draconic, I think it's called the Draconic Scoundrels deck, to try and deal more damage, right? So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and use these 2 first, and then I'll build up, additional, gems here. It doesn't, with just those 2 cards, it's not as, impressive in terms of the number of power gems you can create, but you can sort of see that it does damage, at least almost half, right, with a single key. And by level 250, like 200-ish or so, like 1 key is no longer an option, really. Like, no matter how much you try, the boss deals enough damage to one-shot you no matter what. And so this is one example of, this is actually something that I would use instead in a solo boss. So I would basically use this, and I don't even think that I'm going to use this card. Instead, I would just simply use another card that could get me a bit more power gems, or even just regular gems. Like, I don't have another I don't have another ultra rare card from there, unfortunately. And so really, I think, a good option could actually be Hell, right? So what you do is you place Hell last. You play her afterwards, and this could actually be a relatively good 2-turn deck for solo. So let's see here how much damage we can deal. I don't think I can actually get a solo boss I can attack. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into, let's go into this deck, right? Now let's sort of see the difference now between this. So what you're doing now is you're taking advantage of the 2 support cards. You can swap it out, right? You can sort of swap in any event card really. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to be powering up the support cards or the current event card to do most of the damage for us. Now, this is basically a mix of Gen 3, Gen 2, and I don't know what to call this, Generation 4, 3.5, whatever it may be. And so with this, what you do is you activate Hell to get you additional power gems, and then you can at least generate, to start, 2 regular gems each. And you can sort of see this actually can deal a lot more damage this way. So this actually dealt about 200 trillion, right? Is it trillion? 200 billion, sorry, 200 billion in one shot. And so it is, or close to it, right? So it's going to be at least usable in a solo boss, I think, if you can be fast enough. And what I wanted to show also is another deck that I built that doesn't use those other cards, but it depends on you having a turn delay card. And so Vishal tried the same deck with 2 supports, event card, and the Draconic Scoundrels with the support as lead with no difference. So I think the main thing, I tried it, you do get more health, but you still get 1 shot if you're using a single key. And so if you do one key, it doesn't really matter. Like, I think the boss hits over 400, 500 health, and I was actually trying that, and I still was dying with a single key there. And yes, you can also use this deck. You can also use the Frozen Devastation, and really, like, if you just kind of look at any arcane killer bonus that, like, your strongest arcane killer bonus could actually be used here. So if you take a look at the arcane killer types, so what I've got is I've also got the hard one Gorilla, and this could also work well in my favor because this card does get also the 5-time boost, 5 times damage boost for the nuke, and so that could come in handy. Although my Frozen Devastation is stronger because it is 2-star. You could also use Hellboy if you wanted to. I'm not sure if you're gonna want to. And there are a couple of commander decks that also do this. So you can also try out the different affinity, although you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage because you don't have the 10 times affinity bonus. So Tijai, you're using the Nuke Water Slayer, so you're also using the same deck that I'm showing here. So I have a 2 pink start. So here, this is actually decent, but in terms of, like, if you're trying to save keys and you're trying not to use 3 keys there, it's not going to be as significant in terms of damage output. But it works. Like, with a 3 key, you should be able to you should be competitive. And so let's take a look at another deck here, right? So this is the one I had tried to show. So if you have this card, this is why I always say try to keep your Starcaller Commando if possible. This is the card that you cannot farm. So if you do come across it, try it. And this could actually, I was able to deal over 700 billion damage with this similar deck on an internal boss. But I'm going to show you quickly how this works, right? So if you use this type of deck, Hellfire Dragon, thank you very much. Welcome to stream. And Westwolf, yeah, so like in your case, I think if you have a really strong deck already that's like, off affinity, it still works because you're getting the killer bonus. All right, so basically what you want to do is you want to always constantly, basically delay the boss if you can with this type of deck. And so I'm going to show you just really quickly how this works out. Now, using the Spirits United deck, it's kind of nice because you could almost you could basically always power up your start color commando. And with this setup too, one of the things that you want to try and do is you want to try and power up also the support card, basically by building up the intensity. So this is sort of like back in the day where you have to play the intensity and you're going to be getting additional gems every 3 turns. And so what you can do here is you can actually time it so that when the counter goes down to 2 for your support card, then you would activate the ultra rare card for the Spirits United deck, the Cat, and that will allow you to then build up power gems. So I'm going to show you how this works. So basically you can see the counter is down to 1, and I'm going to go ahead and activate this the ultra rare card first. And this is not going to be strong enough just yet, but I'm going to show you how this works, right? So basically now I'm now going to be building, a bunch more power gems, and now I can deal the most damage this way. So every 5 turns, I'll be able to do this, but if you time it so that you can actually activate your support card at the same time, then you'll be able to deal more damage. And basically you just constantly delay. And with this, you don't need to worry about health. So health is no longer an issue. You just keep basically spamming the cards, and you're actually going to start building up more gems as well. So I need to go a little bit faster here so I can actually take out the boss. With 1.79 seconds remaining, I'm actually just going to go ahead and wait a little bit, because I have 6 turns. What I'm doing is I'm waiting for my Cat ability to actually activate. And now that it's activated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate everything, and then you should see I'll be able to take out the boss with this. This is with a single key. And then you want to activate the support card last, because then it's going to give you sort of the additional gems to help fill the board. Eventually, with your intensity amount high enough, you'll be able to fill up the board just with a single card. Okay, so that's the power of this type of card, is that over time with high enough intensity, you're going to be able to build it up, but it's slow. However, it allows you to use a single key on a guild boss if you're short on keys. Okay, it's going to take a while, but it will allow you to actually take down the boss with just, with those cards. Using a support card is great because it gives you additional damage bonus. And there's another way you can play. If you don't have this deck, if you don't have the Spirits United, but you have the Draconic Scoundrels, here's another variation that you can try. And I'm actually going to switch this card out. So I got this from the 25% collection, but I don't like it as much. I actually prefer this setup more. So I would actually go with this. So Abdullah, give this advice: go for 3 tiers and ultra rare pack. If you get the ultra rare, then go for the main event hero. Yeah, so if you are to go for the deck, the basic strategy here is don't do anything unless you get lucky with your ultra rare pack. So there's a couple things you need to do. The first thing is you need to make sure that you actually have the cards you need to get it. So if you have all of the historical heroes, then you want to try and get lucky with the ultra rare card, and then see if you can get your event hero. If you don't go in that order, you're going to waste a lot of gems for nothing. So like for me, I actually did try to go for the ultra rare hero up to tier 4 in the pack, and it was just a complete waste of gems. Okay, and this is the reason why I hate this pack structure compared to the vault structure. I will say this every time, every event, until they change it. This pack structure is the worst one of them all. It doesn't have any guarantees except for the guaranteed event card at tier 6. It doesn't give you any luck, right? They introduced luck at some point, then they introduced runes, then they introduced dust. Okay, and all of those things that were introduced was because people were having just like, when they have terrible luck, they get really, really bad pulls. And with all of those other things in place, at least at some point you can craft something for free. They took away all of that safety net, and so my recommendation here is to just don't spend if you're not ready for it. If you don't have the gems for it, don't go after it. It is the harsh reality. This is what the devs have chosen to do. They've chosen to alienate the free-to-play players. They've chosen to make it difficult for small spenders like me to try and go after the deck. There's a lot of difficulties in completing the deck and being competitive, and so the incentive is to get the deck, but I refuse to go after it. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use what I have. and I'll make do with it, right? So I'll admit I did try to go for the pack, but I had a lot of gems still at the time, and so I went for a couple of tiers, and I didn't get lucky. But it's not sustainable. Like, I'm not going to be able to build up enough gems to go after every single event, and so I'm just not going to. So that's the recommendation I have. It's just not it's just not worth it. So instead, let's explore some of the older cards that we have because it's still viable. So here, now this card is something that I think now that they've changed the pack structure, this might be available again. Like if you're opening and then you see any spirit like Desire Spirit or Disgust Spirit or or I can't remember the exactly name now, but there's like, there's like the fire, the earth, all of these spirits, they all have a 2-turn delay as well. Now I actually dusted one of my 2-star color commandos, so I couldn't use 2 of them. But in this particular case, you can actually use two cards here. And I'm also using a Generation 2 relic here because I have a card that's a human card. So I can actually use a Generation 2 relic to give me additional gems beginning. So if you wanted to do a turn delay style, my recommendation is to not use, and if you're mixing like, Slayer and non-Slayer, then these Slayer relics are actually going to be a little bit of they're going to present a little bit of a challenge because these will only create as many gems as there are Slayers on the team. But instead, what I've done here is I do have 1 relic from the event, and it guarantees you 5 gems from the beginning, and so does this relic. All of the Gen 2 relics will give you a guaranteed 5 relics. 5 gems at the start of the fight. And so I'm going to show you this deck. It plays a little bit differently, but I was able to get, like I said, over 700 billion in one shot using a single key. I'm sorry?
I really miss you when I'm at school.
Okay, I miss you too. I miss you too. Okay, love you. Good night, okay? All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to use this deck against this, right? So let's see. There's some other questions here. So delay cards is the way to go here. And there's a question from Westful. Any thoughts on devs claiming that they made these changes to give players more choice? How do I put this? In the spirit of giving players more choice, more deck building, I think that if this was done when it was still a vault style pack, maybe it could have worked a little bit better. But the problem here is that when they say they want to encourage deck building, they're really saying they want to encourage pack buying. They actually said in there, the strategy is, how many tiers should I buy to try and fill up my deck, right? Now, if the packs had guaranteed every single tier for you to get one of those event cards, then maybe, right, you can make that claim. But the fact is, you can't guarantee any cards, so it doesn't matter how many tiers you pull. And the fact is, pulling packs is not strategy, okay? Pulling packs, opening packs to try and get lucky isn't strategy. That's not deck building. Deck building is making all of the cards have the same output of damage. Right now, I am going up against teams that have, basically these teams, these bosses are they have been balanced to allow you to, to take it on with a 6 pink star ultimate form. And that is just not likely to happen. Like, we're just not going to be successful using any other teams. And so in terms of their deck building, I'm using the wrong I used the wrong team, so I'm going to quit out here. It's just not, I just don't buy it. It's not a deck building friendly change at all. What it does do though is it forces those of us who refuse to buy into the packs to be creative. Okay, so there is that, right? There is definitely that aspect where we now have to be creative because we don't have the cards, and in order to be competitive, we have to do something. All right, so here is a the deck that uses 2-turn delays because you get to delay 4 turns. And so what you can do here is you could use the scoundrel the Draconic Scoundrel here is because they have a 3-turn cooldown. And so during this time, what you can do is you can continue to build up your turn delay. And what you want to do is you want to just, quickly get through this. And this actually worked a lot better on an Eternal boss because this deck doesn't give you continuous damage, but instead every 3 turns, you could go ahead and activate the Draconic Scoundrels along with a support card here for some, gem support. And then you can keep delaying. So every 3 turns, you'll be able to do a relatively bigger attack. And with the support card, the way it is, you're going to gain more attack you're going to get more damage every single time you attack because you're going to fill up the board a little bit more. And so this is really where the faster you are, the more damage you can actually deal. So there is skill here in terms of like how quickly you can actually match your gems and how quickly you can get the clock to stop, etc. And so right now we got 8 seconds remaining, and we can sort of see like, the support card really is the one that is dealing more damage. But right now I need to, there's a couple of things that you can do here as well, right? So if you could keep your dark gems, if you can actually build up more dark gems, then you can also generate more power gems, so you can sort of farm it. Right now, my problem is in this light, I can't actually see the gems very well, but you can sort of see there are power gems that are being spawned now, and I should be able to deal a little bit more damage here because I'm able to fill up the board at this point. And so with this, let's see how much damage now we can actually deal. So this can now actually deal 93 billion on its own. And so I believe like just one more hit, I could probably do it. And another trick here is when you're running low on clock time and you're having a hard time sort of figuring out where you want to where you need to do a match, if you can activate one of your card's battle skills, then do that because that's going to stop the clock for you as well. All right, so let's see how well we do here. Again, the build. So this is going to be our last attack. Now this was a single key using 2 turn delays, and I think we came into this boss that had about 300 somewhat billion damage health. And so let's see how much damage we can do there. This was actually not playing very well. I wasn't doing very fast. But you can see with a single key, I'm also able to do 355 billion. All right. And so here, what we've got, what I'm showing here is because guild bosses, you have the time to do it. And it looks like a lot of us are probably struggling because of how hard the boss is hitting. And you don't want to really 3-key everything. And so use a single key, you could still be effective in these guild bosses. This could work. It's gonna take more time and it's gonna be a little bit more work. But I think in the end, what this will allow you to do is this will allow you to build up more solo keys. And then what you can do is I think you can just go into the solo bosses and you can just kind of tag it. Like I'm just gonna give up on the solo bosses, to be honest with you. Like I'm not able to get much of anything except for when I spawn it. So let's see if we can actually get, so we get a key for being MVP and also for participation now. So you get a guild key. So you get a single guild key, is that right? Yeah. So you can at least get a single guild key for participation, and then you get more if you MVP, you get one more for MVP. And so it's not going to be easy anymore in terms of like, getting our infinite keys cycled, but this should at least help you get more solo keys. Then you can sort of get the guild keys and then move forward. I also don't like the changes, honestly, in Slayer. There just hasn't been a lot of great changes recently, but hopefully this helps you out. Alternatively, you can also use immunity, but immunity cards are those cards that people don't have. And so like, let's see, for the dark one, it's going to be creature. So all dark, there's a dark creature card. If you see it, like I said, I'm not sure if it's available in the packs nowadays, but if you see like Nightmare Crawler, it's a 4-star card, you might look at it and say, what is this garbage card? Actually, this is one of the most sought after cards for a very long time because this card has a skill that gives you immunity every single turn. If you can activate it every single turn, you could actually be immune to damage every single turn. It does have a 24 gem charge rate, but with a lot of the decks that we have now, this works best with Spirits United because it also has a 1-turn cooldown, right? So Nightmare Crawler is actually a relatively good option. Some of the other cards that you might want to consider, for example, if you're depending on let's see, so let's change this a little bit, right? So let's say that you were looking for a card that could give you a nuke damage. So let's say you're using the dark freedom fighter card. Well, the problem is you will die before you can actually get the nuke off, right? And so in this case, what you can do is you can do immunity, or you can do a turn delay, and then you can then use that nuke card to then deal damage. And so this is where you'll want to switch it out and simply put in a turn delay card. But it's not a Slayer card, so let's go ahead and do no filter, right? So you can also do something like this. Make sure that you can actually get enough gems to start with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 3 keys to try to do an attack. I'll use this as an example, right? So I'll use this as an example where I can use 3 keys here. Make sure that I've got like the Freedom Fighter card. It's still very powerful because of its 5 times nuke damage. I want to see how much damage I can deal in a single shot right now, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and activate all of these cards. Okay. And the reason why the turn delay is important here is because if without this, you're going to basically deal damage, and then before you can nuke, you'll die. And so with this, we can deal another 500 billion damage with with Freedom Fighters on a 3 key damage. And so all of these decks, basically what it comes down to, requires you to throw in a turn delay. And unfortunately, the turn delay card that I'm showing you, the Stark Collar Commando, is one that can't be farmed. But if you have it, put it to good use. I'm going to take a look and see what have they said about the Arcane Shield? Oh, that's a good question. I haven't heard anything about Arcane Shields, but I believe that might be in the Relic, right? That might have been like is it like one of those things where the ultimate relic gives you a shield breaker? No, like this one actually has a shield breaker. It sounds like something that is PvP related, right? PvP was the first event that introduced the concept of a breaker of some sort of armor in the beginning of fights. So if they're also like prepping for a PvP fight, then that would be the reason why, I think. Yeah, so exactly, that was what I was going to recommend as well. Another card that you could look into is also the Phoenix, right? Crystal Phoenix is the first card ever that introduced a revive mechanic, and that was the card that really broke guild versus guild fights. That was one of the cards that caused a mass exodus, actually, to an extent. A lot of the really high spenders back then, who focused a ton of their resources into a really good, solid, guild versus guild defense team, basically quit after this card was introduced, because this is the card that broke the game, because people now have the ability to revive after a single turn. But Crystal Phoenix in events also work really well because it's nice. It also creates 2 power gen 4s, and it also gives you revive. So then the cards that you'll want to use is like you want to try and do hell, right? So we can also do this, right? We can also say, you know what, let's just go ahead and put hell in here. And I'm going to do this, right? So let's do Dark, Slayer, and Gen 2. Gen 2, and we'll power up. So here is Hell, and I don't have 2 Hells, but I do have a Soul Reaper. And so in this case, like, we could actually deal some pretty significant damage. So let's try it with a guild boss as well, right? So this is a 2-turn deck, and we have a... this should be fine. I don't think I'm going to be able to deal enough damage on turn 1, but we can take a look here, right? So 2 Hells actually would be ideal. But if you can work this deck in, then this also works well. You just really need to have cards that can spawn power gen 4s. That's really all you need, right? And let's go ahead and do this. And make sure you always make sure you always do the support card last. So here we're able to fill up the board completely with dark gems, and this outputs 170 or so. Right, so you can take a look. A single key gives you about actually close to 200. Right, so this is another setup. If you don't have Soul Reaper, or if you don't have Hell, another card that you can use is also the Dark Dragoon from a long time ago. If you've held on to it, then you should know what I'm talking about. So here's a Dark Dragoon, and that is the let's see, Xeno Scourge. Right, so Xeno Scourge also acts just like Soul Reaper when it's not specialized, and you can specialize it to be just like Hell, so you can create 2 Power Gem 2s. Because at this point, you're not using these cards for their damage anyway. You're boosting another card to actually do the damage output, and so use these cards to your advantage. So let's see. So West Wolf, it doesn't just affect free to play and low spenders, and there are people that spend over $1,000 on the event and didn't get any ultra rare. And so that's the sadness. That's the sad reality of this game right now. It's too expensive, and I've been contemplating on sending a stronger message. And I think you guys know I've been saying this a lot. All of the changes that we've made, all of the progress that we've made up to this point before before 2 events ago, right? Up to the Fire Slayer event. The beautiful thing about where the game was going is that we were all getting to a point where we had a nice rhythm going. The free-to-play players, the low spenders, we don't expect to have an ultimate form every single event, nor should we. But we have that comfort knowing that we could strategize on whether or not we want to spend our dust or not. This is what I try to help with, and know that when something good does come out, we can have something to compete with. It's that insurance, right? It's what, it's our investment on time, and our loyalty, and the time spent in the game should count, right? And also for people who do spend, right? The vault is a really good way for you to get what you want when you want it. And we got to a point where we were comfortable, and I thought that it was going in a great direction. We had so much hardship getting to this point, and then they completely switched it up. And then they gave a reason which I don't believe in, and that is they wanted to increase deck building. If they wanted to increase deck building, they would not have introduced a 6-star ultimate form to begin with. They would not have changed the pack structure to the way it is right now. They would have said, you know what, we're going to make all of our Generation 2 cards also times 10 affinity bonus. That would have introduced more deck building, but instead they made an even bigger gap, right? So we're actually way worse off than we were before. If you've been a fan, if you watch me since Generation 2 days, you would know that I used to play exactly like this. I didn't buy a lot of the decks, so I would just use whatever I got from a support card and event card. Sometimes if I get the event card, and I'll use it. But the difference back then was that all of the cards were just times 2 affinity bonus. I could find a good deck, build something, and actually work with it. Now, with everything that is, sort of supercharged in terms of the health and also power level, it's hard to find those cards that can actually compete, right? And so there are still some cards that sort of withstand the test of time, but the reality is, if you don't have the cards now, you can't compete. And that is what disappoints me a lot. So let's see. Mr. H, you've been watching for a while, and you're at a crossroads right now with the game, and thank you very much. I do appreciate you guys also being very supportive. And so let's see. Old rare relics. So if you are looking at old relics, right? So they do still sell the relics at the Drill Fist Deal Depot. And I think, these relics can still be useful. If you're planning on using some of the older cards, right? So for me, actually, this human relic would actually be really work really well if you still want to use, this card right here. With a Dynamite Dougal, for example, you want to build intensity. The relic actually still works. And so those old relics can be found in that, but it's just because it resets once a week. There's no guarantee on what you're going to get, and there's no guarantee whenever they're going to, move away from that. So there's I can't really say, but for those of us who have those cards, great. Now I showed cards that were pretty old, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to help the newer players. The newer players, if you have just support cards and event card, and you have one relic, you're gonna have a hard time because what you can do is you can use the Generation 3 Dark Slayer relics to give you the gem on turn one, but then you're not going to have a lot of power gen spawners. Like I actually pulled a bunch of support cards. Like I'm now looking at it and I'm trying to see like what can we do if you had all support cards, right? And like I said, I pulled a bunch of support cards when I try to go with the ultra rare card, and I could actually evolve most of them, I think. Oh, and here's my other thing I didn't say, right? The fact that you need these evolution tokens, I think, is really unfortunate. It goes back against what they said about making it easy for us to use the support cards in the first place. So I don't have enough tokens. I don't have enough tokens to evolve my support cards. They shouldn't have given us these catalysts. They gave us these catalysts because we were running out of catalysts, the old catalysts that were, basically required for every single event. They took it all away and they gave us these evolution stones, which was genius. It was great. And then now they've introduced this new mechanic to make it hard for you to get. So I can even showcase, a team with support cards. Like, how are people who are free to play supposed to get more than one or two support cards to be evolved? Like, it frustrates me to no end. All of these things are just frustrating. Like, it's just not fun. So, like, I just hear people saying like, I can't evolve my cards, I can't do this and I can't do that, and all these ideas I have. There's that assumption that you can evolve your cards, that you can do something. But if you can't evolve your cards, you can't compete, you can't get the trophies, then how are you supposed to get the collections? If you can't get the collections, then you can't get the materials required in order to evolve your hero. It's a bad cycle. You can also buy packs, right? But buying packs really is out of the question for a lot of people. And yeah, so the coins do not carry over. That's the other thing. Like, you reset from zero every single event, right? This is the reality of where we are. And so this is the best ideas I can come up with, and this is the stream I wanted I wanted to at least share these. These are some of the ideas I have. Hopefully it helps out. It is not like before, where we have a lot more options. I think the options are actually limited. And so if there's other ideas that I did not come up with, though, I would definitely highly encourage you to please comment below. Let me know and share these ideas, and let's talk about them. Right, I want to encourage different ideas for sure, so that we can be all successful. So you can check me out on the network app, or you can comment down below in this video, so that other people who are looking for ideas can benefit as well. Westwood, do you get the extra coins from early pack tiers? I don't remember. I'll have to pay more attention. I think you get maybe a little bit. I think you get some, but very minimal. I don't think you can actually get very. I don't think you can get a lot there. So exactly, affinity claymores are your friend, and so for people who are starting out, and if you are looking at gears, don't discount some of these sabers that you get. So the sabers that you do get can be evolved to actually be pretty powerful. So like, for example, this one is one that I evolved to help boost dark cards. So all dark cards, regardless of whether it's a commander or slayer or what have you, you're going to be able to get some damage boost. The only downside is you don't get the gems from beginning. And so but those are options as well for someone who's just starting out. Don't discount those. And so I think that's pretty much it for me. I want to make sure that I answer the questions. If there's any questions that I've missed, I'm going to scroll up a little bit. And yeah, so I'm just seeing a lot of people here saying hi. So if I didn't respond to your message, please forgive me. There is quite a bit to go through, and I can't read through them all. But so let's see. But I believe I've answered the questions that were directly at me. The UI packs do give coins, and it's just so expensive. It's just ridiculous. And then you look at this, right? You need to get a relic. If you go with a guaranteed support card, that's 2. And then it used to be you go to tier 4 for the event pack, so you can get the event card, right? And so that would have been 2,000. That would have been about 3,000. It basically was a 5 to 6,000 gem commitment every single event just to get all three minimal things: support card, event card, and the relic. And I would argue that the event card is generally not as important. Support cards help, and the relic is really what will make or break your game. Like if you plan to stick it out, and if they don't change anything, then I think that relics is going to be the way to go. And this just brings back memories of when I started Generation 2 and we had these relics and it was just one relic at a time. But the difference there was I could use it whenever they reintroduce a class. This time I'm getting a arcane killer relic, which will only be available the next time an arcane killer comes around. And so we're going to get, I'm assuming we're going to have, I don't know, 5, right? We'll have 5 affinity plus 2 different types. So this can at least be used 10 times. Like you're gonna, this at least allows us to mix and match, right? So the next time an arcane killer comes around, whether it's water, fire, earth, what have you, as long as it's an arcane killer, you can combine these relics. So that is the nice thing, and that is the reason why I still get the relics, because they do apply every time. They're not gonna, like we're not gonna see another dark arcane slayer for another 50 weeks. And so you can expect that this is not going to be useful for that particular case, but you can use this particular relic the very next time you see an arcane killer skill event, in which case then you'll be able to at least use that to your advantage and build up the intensity. So there is still that benefit. Okay, so from a relics perspective, this works out well for cross affinity. We lost that when we went to Gen 3, and now we're just back to that again. Okay, so don't forget about the fact that you can do cross affinity. That is the one positive that I think I could say with this particular change. Although I really did like it back then when it was, like the relic that powers up all. Back then it was like it powers up all dark commanders or all dark slayers, and before that it was like only all creatures, right? But now it's all arcane killers. Like it's always like encompassing something. And I think that now that they're sort of going with a killer skill as the focus, it's just going to continue to be hard for us who don't have the event decks or the older ultimate forms to be successful. But I'm hoping that I could help. I'll continue to be helpful there. So let's see. There's questions here as well. Nobody in the room, I should start the same. Yeah, so there is definitely a lot of sentiment that a lot of people that have actually stopped their VIP, and I don't blame you, just because like I don't see the value in it right now either. VIP actually provided a lot more value before, but I don't see it as much now. End of the day is abandon the killer skill enemies. It just feels like every enemy that you see, they all are just weak to the killer skill of the event, and so I don't even know what they're doing anymore. Like last time, that was definitely the case. Like you see all these different enemies show up, and whether it's actually weak to that killer skill, it doesn't really matter. And so I think that's probably where it's at. So free Ascendant Word in the Holiday Bazaar for anyone who doesn't know. Oh yeah, so don't forget to open this, and I totally forgot. So you do need to make sure you open it. So go back to your Holiday Bazaar, you get free stuff, and so we get an Ascendant Warden, so that's good. Let's see what I got. And I got a Basan, which is a very old warden, and it's fire, so I'm not really gonna use it. If it was light, it would have been good. So let's see. So let's take a look at the card that we just got. So thanks for that reminder, Westwolf. Check back every day. The Bazaar is going to give you something every single day. And so this is what did we get here? So this gives you Weaken. So that's going to go into the dustbin because I don't plan to use that card. So Jeffrey L, the new system is awful, very unfriendly, and just not fun any longer. Their announcement of why they made no sense. Not sure how much I can play like this. Been in the game 18 months and this is so bad. So those of you who know, I've been in the game for over 1,200 days. And so here you go. Let's take a look and we can show you where I'm at right now. So I've been here for 1,200 days and change, right? 1,218 days to be exact. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of changes in this game, and I've stood by the developers through most of it, and I've seen a lot of people, being very disgruntled about the changes, and I've weathered them out mostly, but it's getting harder. It definitely isn't getting easier because of the nature of where we are with the cards, and we're building on top of all the things that we've done, right? This isn't starting fresh. This is a reset that really isn't a reset. This is a reset with all of the baggage that came along with it and all of the power creep that we are at now, so that the reset really isn't the same as how it was. So weathering through this when you have nothing to go with just makes it that much harder. And so Mount Fillmore, yeah, I'm actually going to be streaming maybe 10 minutes after I end this stream. So for those of you who do check out the other game, Era of Chaos is the one I also play. And I do have a Discord. I have a Discord server as well. So those of you who are looking to join, feel free to join me there so that we can have a conversation about that game as well. Okay. And if you are, if you're curious about the server, message me on network chat, and I'll also keep it in the description of my video here so that you could see it also. And so, hey, exactly, you got Demoness Grenja. Yay, that card is even older than Basan. So it looks like we got a lot of old cards. Rock D, Wicked Queen isn't too bad. Wicked Queen is a card that can give you unlimited heal, so at least that's good. And so Vishal, you've been playing for 3 years, so I guess you were a beta player. So that is a very long time. Anyways, so this is going to be it for me for this particular stream. I don't think I'm going to be effective in helping you guys take a look at your cards. I just wanted to show sort of like based on what I'm using, what I think could be effective. So hopefully you guys could benefit from that as well. I'm going to end the stream at this point. I just want to say thank you so much, everybody, for your time, and also for your time, and also for all of your support. And Vishal, oh yeah, me. I thought you were referring to yourself. Yeah, so like over 3 years, right? So it's been a long time for me, and so so thanks all for your support. I'm waiting to see what the next event is going to be like. I'm hoping it's not going to be as difficult as the one that we went through, and so look for me on Tuesday. We'll talk about the cards, and also check me out in an upcoming stream in about 10 minutes or so. So thank you, everybody. Take care. And I will see you next time. All right. See ya.